Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matthew, and I'm here as always with Venushan. And we just finished up watching Game 7 of Clippers Mavericks. The Mavericks, what looked like had the makings of a miracle upset in the first round, ends in Game 7. Even though Luka dropped, what was it, 46 and 14 or something like that. We're gonna get to that in just a second. We're gonna start in the East because we already kind of talked about the eliminated teams in the East last week. We're gonna talk about the second round game ones that we've seen, all the crazy stuff that's happened so far, and then get into the Knicks and get into the Celtics and what they should do in the offseason. So let's start with that game one Hawks and Sixers that we just saw. Embiid played a healthy Embiid playing well. I thought that was an automatic win for the Sixers, but Trae Young went ballistic. The Hawks showed their offensive depth, almost blew a 14-point lead with about 3 minutes left, but Hawks take game one. This is massive, taking game one in Philly.
Yeah, it's the first Atlanta Hawk players to have 35 points and 10 plus assists in a playoff game. Trae Young showed that he is one of the future faces of the NBA. They almost blew it, which was crazy with that late turnover Bogdanovich had, but they were able to secure it. Good game one win. It's going to give them a lot of confidence going into the future games. But it did feel like in the fourth quarter, they were kind of figuring out this Hawks team and the rotations. So that's going to be interesting to see. Embiid was literally like as good as Trae Young was. Embiid was like on par with him. Like he was unstoppable. He shot great. He went to the line 15 times. He shot 39 points, 9 rebounds. Ben Simmons had a decent game too. Shot perfect from the field, 17 and 10. The only thing, obviously, everyone, us, the media, everyone's going to talk about it. The 30% from the free throw line, the 7 missed free throws did cost him this game, and he needs to get better from that because if he shot 50%, talk about a completely different game. So he needs to improve there. Tobias Harris, good game, 20 and 10. Seth Curry, good game, 21 and 4. Classic playoff Danny Green, complete brick, kind of hit a single three. Yeah. But it was a good game. The Hawks can have a lot more confidence, but I think both of our predictions don't change. I still have Sixers and 6.
Yeah. Did I take Sixers in 5 or 6? I forget. I think it might have been 5. But yeah, like you said, it looked like some switch flip there in the fourth quarter, and just defensively, they just figured something out. So much better. Just use their size. They got so many turnovers, so many steals. Embiid, no one like Capella's nice. Capella's a really good defender, but like no one can touch Embiid. Ben Simmons was perfect from the field. Tobias Harris was pretty good. And like a clutch Bogdanovich 3 kind of put them up 6 when they had just cut it to 3. And then Ben Simmons missing a bunch of free throws kind of is the difference in this game. I don't think I think the Sixers are going to be a lot better defensively than they were in the first half going forward.
Yeah, they're just going to try to keep this a low-scoring game because they know they can slow the pace down. They'll be better. And the Hawks still didn't have a great game from like Gallinari, which could still happen. But
Herter was really good.
Hunter was out too, so that's going to be improvement when Hunter comes back. I think Reddish is done for this playoffs. I don't think he's going to come back, but he's someone to look out for in the maybe future runs. But this is a good team, man. This is a good team. And even if they lose in 6, I think a lot of Atlanta Hawks fans and NBA media will say this was like a really good season for the Atlanta Hawks in their development.
Yeah, and I think at least in this game, Trae Young, maybe not the best. Like him and Embiid were pretty much equal, like you said, in this game.
Yeah.
And I think he was above Ben Simmons in this game, like pretty obviously.
100%. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe after the series, we're thinking Trae Young greater than Ben Simmons. I think I'm maybe thinking that already. I don't know.
Yeah. On the offensive end, it's obvious.
Yeah. There was one moment in the game where Embiid kind of fell awkwardly and then started grabbing and flexing his right knee. That was kind of worrisome, but it didn't seem to affect them at all.
Yeah, he has a pretty tight wrap on it seems like, and that's kind of just hoping for it. And man, he needs to play great because we've seen without him, they're not going to win like the series. Like I still have it going pretty far because I believe in Tobias Harris, but he needs to play. I saw 6 and 6.
Yeah, I think 6 is probably more likely. I think I took 5 earlier, but 6 probably seems a little more likely. Anyway, so talking about injuries in game ones, we should have started with this. The Nets looked amazing. They beat the Bucks. Chris Middleton was atrocious. But more importantly, James Harden re-aggravated that same hamstring that he missed 20-something games with this season, 21 games, and has already been ruled out for game 2. So hopefully this is just really precautionary. Hopefully they're just kind of preserving for what is supposed to be a long championship run, but game 2 turned into a must win for the Bucks. And the Bucks, if they don't win that game, the series is over. And if they do win that game, and James Harden isn't 100%, even though this they kind of really got out overmatched in game 1, this could be a more interesting series.
Yeah, like I don't know how much like Brook Lopez had 19 points and 5 rebounds. Giannis shot 40% from three, just
Yeah.
2 out of 5, but still 40%. He had 34 and 11. Uh, Drew Holiday did his job, 17, 9, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the bench just couldn't do anything. Forbes 5 points,
Yeah.
Bobby Porter 6 points. Uh, they were all shoot. They all the whole bench only made 1 3. Uh, Chris Middleton was completely trash. Couldn't make a single
Oh my
three.
god.
He shot 6 for 23, 13 points. Like he has to just play better. Everyone around Giannis has to play better. And if you lose 2 games without James Harden and then he returns in game 3, your confidence is going to be so shot because you're like losing to this team without a
Yeah.
MVP caliber player, and then he
Yeah.
returns and it's just going to be like it's going to feel like facing
Yeah.
like a giant or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's going to feel unbeatable. So it's going to be tough tomorrow. It's weird saying a game 2 is a must-win game,
Yeah.
but it is a must-win game. The bright spot for the Bucks is, are we going to see this Blake Griffin again? 18 points, 14 rebounds, 4 for 9 from three. Like, man, if Blake Griffin plays that good, kind of have no chance. But it's pretty safe to bet that he won't play like that again. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a close game. Uh, you're not going to get this Blake game again. You're not going to get all the Bucks bench players not being able to hit a three. So it's going to be a lot closer, and it's going to be more emphasis on KD and Kyrie and seeing what the 7-11 combo could do. Because without Harden, those two guys are heavily, heavily dependent on, and it's going to
Yeah.
be a much closer series without Harden.
Yeah. And they were both great in this game. But the thing is, I think they were both defended actually pretty well. Like
Yeah,
Durant put up a 29 and 10, but it's only on 12 to 25. I mean, that's still good efficiency, but like I think in a playoff game, you're okay with that from Durant,
yeah,
right? And then 25 points from Kyrie, only 42%. I think you're also okay with that. But then like you said, Mike James with 12 points, Blake Griffin 18 and 14 hitting 4 out of 9 threes.
yeah,
I don't think you get that game again. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like you said, the Bucks depth players, like pretty much outside of Brook Lopez and Giannis and Drew Holiday, no one did anything.
yeah,
They're probably going to get a little better. Like they have to get better from Middleton. Like there's no way. I was
yeah.
relying on Middleton being the closer, being 25 points a game. If they don't get that, the series is a wrap.
And something we heard in the off season, and I mean not in the off season, and during the season, and we're kind of surprised here is Coach Bud is on the hot seat, and the only reason that rumor came out is because they're just talking about his adjustments. Can
Yeah.
he make adjustments? And we've seen a coach just get fired because he wasn't able to make adjustments with Terry Scott's. He just got fired out of the Portland job, and if he's going to come back into the NBA coaching, it's either a head coaching position with the Pacers or an assistant coaching job. So Coach Bud might also be on his way out too if he can't make adjustments and adjust to
Yeah.
this two-headed horse now instead of the three-headed, which should be an easy adjustment on like the surface level, especially from our fans. Because like if you're losing a player like James Harden, it should be easier to adjust to those two guys. So
Mm-hmm.
Bud has to do his job, man,
Yeah.
or he's kind of gone.
Yeah. And like I understand because they prepared for the game thinking James Harden was going to play, but going
Yeah,
into game 2, knowing the day before he's not playing, like we better see some adjustments there. Speaking
yeah,
of coaches that are losing their jobs, kind of Brad Stevens, in a what's been a really surprising move, is taking Danny Ainge's job, and now they're looking for a new head coach. The Celtics were eliminated by this juggernaut Nets team. How does the Celtics team improve in the offseason? Like who should be their head coach? I don't really see too many obvious ways this team can improve.
well, so Jason Kidd just turned down kind of like this Portland job, so I don't think he's satisfied with just being an assistant coach. I think maybe he has a little bit of intel. Maybe the Sixers,
Mm,
or not the Sixers, maybe the Celtics gave him a little intel, like, hey, you could come here and coach or something like that. So that's who I'm expecting is going to be the coach. There's 610K under the tax, which basically means they don't have any cap space to
that's it.
work around these guys. So next year, you can have Kemba, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Tristan Thompson, Aaron Neesmith, Peyton Pritchard. You can probably re-sign Fournier, and then you have your first round pick and a second round pick.
Yeah.
So you have those picks there. You have all your picks in the future. You have Kemba Walker's 36 million. I think it's time to move on from Kemba, make a big trade, get some young guys in, get some rotational pieces around the Tatums, let Smart run the PG. I think it's time for Kemba Walker to go.
Yeah, I think outside of guys like Neesmith and those young guys you mentioned, like just developing really quickly into players that can help you win right now, the only way to get over the hump for this team is to trade Kemba. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know how they're going to do that though, because like you said, 36 mil, he hasn't been healthy since he got to the Celtics, and like he's going to have to be traded for probably another. If they don't want to touch too many picks, it's going to have to be another one of those ugly contract guys. Like Porzingis maybe comes to mind, but like I think I do agree. Like maybe you attach like their first round pick. Do they have?
yeah.
They probably have a couple first round picks, right?
They have all the
Um,
first round picks.
yeah. So I don't know. It's gonna take that. I don't. Maybe Danny Ainge wasn't comfortable doing that. I don't know.
Sharing all
Like
the picks. Yeah.
maybe Brad Stevens will be. Who knows? I don't know how he is as a GM.
Yeah. So that's the one thing we don't know how Brad Stevens is, because if we were
Yeah.
Danny Ainge, we could just always basically say Danny Ainge is not attaching 4 first round picks that are
Yeah.
unprotected to go get a superstar. But that's the reason why he's out, and he did retire. Well, that's kind of a nice way to put it, because they didn't want to fire him because they had such a good relationship and such a good 10 years. So they're like, hey,
Yeah.
Danny Ainge, can you retire? Because we don't want to fire you. And he's like, yeah, sure. So he's out of there. Those picks, I think, aren't safe. I think they're going to land someone big. We don't know who that someone big is, but I think
Mm-hmm.
they're going to land someone big for Kemba Walker. And that could be in terms of like one player who's making 12 million and one player making 24, to try to get some more depth on this team, because that's something that's severely lacking.
Yeah, for sure. Like other than him being traded for like a Westbrook size contract or something like that,
Yeah.
I don't like I don't really see those trades as too likely. Realistically, it's probably going to be like you said, a couple of guys adding up to that 36, and then attaching a bunch of picks to get someone to take this risky, Kemba contract.
Yeah. And someone, people might not like this, but Malcolm Brogdon, for
Mm,
example, and Miles Turner for Kemba Walker and
interesting.
like 4 picks. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm just saying that's the type of
Yeah,
depth they're looking
something like
for,
that. Right.
because they're not going to land a superstar like Bradley Beal. At least I don't think so. Bradley Beal is worth more than Kemba Walker and picks.
Yeah.
So look for someone like Malcolm Brogdon, Miles Turner for Kemba for like
Mm,
4 first round picks.
yeah. Is there a Pelicans trade in there somewhere? Like Ingram is probably too valuable, right?
Uh,
I don't know.
I just don't think. I think Pelicans. I don't think Kemba Walker is the guy. I think
Yeah.
they have Zion. They already have a bunch of picks. I think they're like the same spot as the Celtics, trying to land a superstar
Yeah.
rather than trade one away in Ingram.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty much I think all we got for the Celtics.
Yeah,
Maybe some development. All those guys they drafted that didn't get too much minutes. Maybe they improve. Outside of that, there's no free agent coming in. They're pretty much right up against the cap. You got to trade Kemba. Maybe trade Marcus Smart. That's another thing they could do.
yeah, that's iffy
I
too.
think
Yeah,
outside of Tatum and Brown, I think anyone is subject to go. You said Thompson. Is Thompson on the roster next year? Like, is
Thompson is
he?
on the roster next
It
year
was a
for 9
2 year.
mil for the
Okay.
mid
Okay.
Leo.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the other team that we haven't covered in the East, the New York Knicks, um, go down to defeat to the Hawks in 5 games. I took them in 7. You took the Hawks in 7.
and 7.
They get absolutely just shown out of town in 5 games. Julius Randle, they have him on the books for one more year. Then he's a free
Yeah,
agent. Derrick Rose is free agent. Probably a couple other guys are free agents. Like,
a lot of
they're
guys,
yeah.
a lot of
Uh,
guys. So let me list off the players they have on the roster. They have RJ Barrett, team option, which you're accepting. They have Julius Randle at the 19.8. Then they have Mitchell Robinson's team option, Kevin Knox's team option, accepting both of that. They have Obi Toppings, 5 million. They have Luca Vildoza, Emmanuel Quickly's 2.2, and Norvel Powell's 1.7. And then they have the 2021 first round pick, the Dallas 2021 first round pick, and two 2021 second round picks. So they have a lot of picks. They have
mhm,
a lot of young guys, and the key thing,
mhm.
they have 81 million to play with in the tax.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of Raptors fans are looking at this, and the rumors they want a point guard and a small forward. I think it's lock Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan to the New York Knicks. Bring back the duo with the youngsters. I think it's a good move.
I think that's a great move. That would be something. Like, they have the room for 2 stars. They have trade options. They can sign guys. Like, they can really do anything with this roster. And like Kyle Lowry is exactly what this team needs. They need a point guard. They also need another scorer. DeMar DeRozan's perfect. Take some pressure off RJ Barrett on the ball. Let him just play off the ball, cut. That's what he's good at. Julius Randle, take some pressure off him, and then you
A
have
lot of pressure
spacing.
off him.
You have some spacing, and then Mitchell Robinson. I guess you can like he's coming back.
Keep
That'd
develop.
be that'd be a great team. I think that's a top 6, top 5 lock in the East.
Yeah, so now you have a lineup of Lowry, RJ Barrett, DeMar DeRozan, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. You still have enough cap space to bring back Derrick Rose. You still have Emmanuel Quigley. You still have Obi Toppin and Kevin Knox. You have enough cap space to bring back Alex Burks. Enough cap space to bring back Taj Gibson and Nerlens Noel.
Mm-hmm.
You have a really good core, and you still have your picks where you could draft and develop guys. So now you have a really good core with these veterans that are going to help alleviate so much pressure. Like RJ Barrett goes from a second option to like the fourth option.
Yeah.
Like he goes from the best wing player guarding him
Yeah.
to now the worst wing player guarding him. Like he's gonna have such an easier time scoring, and it's gonna be good. I hope to see obviously the duo come back together. And as a Raptors fans, I would like to see this happen on the Knicks.
Yeah, and Kyle Lowry going from Nick Nurse to Thibs, he's used to playing 38 minutes a game. He's used to
Yeah,
being 30 minutes, so it's not gonna be anything new to him. And like Tibbs teams always play defense, right? Like DeRozan, not a great defender. Barrett's okay. Julius Randle's okay by himself, but like that team, we know it's going to be a good defensive team. That's just
yeah,
they always play good team defense. Another guy that's going to come up in the rumors, Chris Paul, is going to
yeah.
decline his player option. He wants a multi-year deal in the $100 million range. I think no matter what, the Suns should give him that
Re-signing him. Yeah,
just for what he's done for them this year. But the Knicks are going to be there. The Knicks are going to be definitely at least in the mix at the beginning.
yeah. I personally would rather just go with Lowry just because we know Lowry is willing to accept that 2-year deal. And DeMar DeRozan, he's probably willing to accept like a 2-year, 3-year deal as well. So you could not mortgage your future, right? Because once these guys' contracts are coming up, Lowry and DeRozan, that's the time when RJ's extension is going to come up, Mitchell Robinson's extension is going to come up. So you can really like shift the cap focus. So it's a good in betweener. Get them experience, but once these guys are up for extensions, these guys are gone. It's really good cap work if they sign Lowry, DeRozan.
Yeah. They have so many options. Another thing that's going to come up for them is Julius Randle. Do you extend him now, or do you wait, let him hit unrestricted free agency, take a gamble on him, or like if you pay him now, you're gonna have to pay him like a max, and then what if he ends up being a playoff bust again? I don't know. It's just, how do you see this?
I think you wait to see if you can sign those guys because obviously in paper it sounds like it's really good to sign Lowry DeRozan, but at the end of the day, DeMar DeRozan has not won a championship yet. He might take a huge pay cut and go play with the Lakers, right? We don't know what he's thinking right now. So the question is, if you sign those guys and use your cap space this offseason, then it's worth signing Julius Randle because you're not going to have the cap space to play next season. But if you have like a hold on him, like a cap hold on Julius Randle, then use your free agency next offseason when those superstars are obviously in it, and then bring in Julius Randle to go like over the cap. Obviously that works too, but it just depends. Do you strike gold this offseason, or did you miss out this offseason and have to wait for the next offseason?
Yeah. I agree. I think if they sign both those two guys, I think might as well just
Resign them, yeah.
Resign them, and then if not, probably keep your options open. Okay, so let's move on to the West. We just watched Game 7. Like I said, I guess what are your thoughts on the Clippers? Did Kawhi? They won 4 out of 5 games after going down 0-2. Kawhi looks like a top 2, top 3 player in the NBA again. They're matched up against Utah in the second round. I guess what are your just thoughts after seeing the Clippers knock Dallas out and going on to the second round?
Everyone in Toronto should know this. Every Raptors fan should know this. Kawhi Leonard is a special type of basketball player. He is just that good, man. He could just score from every range. He could just take over games, and he could just like get a team motivated and running in so much fashions, whether that be like a weird 3-pointer or like a breakaway slam or just a steal and a block. Like he just motivates the team and gets them going. We got to give a lot of credit to Morris this game.
Oh yeah,
He's been playing small ball center due to Serge Ibaka's injury and due to Zubac just not being mobile enough to be on the court because Luka Doncic was just attacking Zubac every single play. So Zubac basically couldn't play on the court. And Morris They put on 7-7 Boban to go give Morris a hard time and get him in foul trouble. They put KP at center, who's 7-3, but he did his job. He still scored 23 points and he shot 7 from 9 from the 3-point line. And he basically won this game because with the floor stretching and
Mm-hmm.
not getting into foul trouble, he was able to provide so much. And man, if these role players, Reggie Jackson and Morris and Batum, could play like this, and Kawhi can still keep up this legendary play that he's doing, this is going to be a tough, tough matchup for the Jazz.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is, like, we were kind of counting on Ibaka. We both took the Clippers over the Jazz, but we were counting on Ibaka being there to stretch the floor and, let take Gobert away from the basket. But if Kawhi plays like that, if Morris plays like that, if Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann play like that, they have more depth than we thought, and it will be a close series. I will say that going from the Mavericks to the Jazz is going
Big
from a team
difference.
that was playing a zone defense for most of Game 7 to one of the top-rated defensive teams in the league with the best rim protector in the league, and good individual defenders, good team defenders, really good defensive coach. It's going to be kind of night and day. And as we saw, the Mavericks have no depth past Luka
Yeah,
Doncic. He has no help. And Utah has pretty much the opposite of that. They have a good star in Donovan Mitchell, but he's not Luka level, and then just a ton of depth, a bunch of guys who can beat you.
yeah. And the reason I mentioned Marcus Morris, I forgot to finish my point, is because as important as he was this series, next series his importance probably like doubles or triples because he has to stretch out Rudy Gobert. Because if Rudy Gobert, if he's having a horrible 3 point
Yeah.
shooting night and Rudy Gobert could just sit in the paint, that's gonna just take away so much from Paul George and Kawhi's game where they can't drive, and now you're just playing tight up on him and they're just
Yeah.
setting up for mid rangers. And if they play like that, then man, this series could be quick. It
Yeah.
could be a wrap pretty quickly. But if Marcus Morris can hit
Mm-hmm.
7 for 9 or like at least like a 40% shooting, then it's gonna be tough for Rudy Gobert because he's gonna be all the way out at the 3 point line. So it's crazy. Like he was signed for a $16 million per year deal, and everyone was calling him overpaid instantly. But he's proving his worth, man. As this small
Yeah.
ball center, if he could shoot like this again and win another series, then he's definitely worth that $16 million price tag.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's the key because the Clippers were getting whatever they wanted in the paint against Dallas.
Yeah,
Just Dallas just has no rim protection. Now Utah obviously has a lot. If Gobert is able to just camp out in the paint, they're not going to
wrap.
have nearly as easy a time scoring as they did in this first series. Yeah, so maybe he just takes over that Ibaka role. He's a better shooter than Ibaka, I think. Obviously, he's not as good of a rebounder, as good of a rim protector and
Defender.
stuff like that. Good
Yeah,
defender, but I mean, if he can just actually be a small ball five, shoot 40%, make Gobert worry about him, come out a little bit, this could be,
totally
that could be
different
the key.
series. Yeah,
Yeah.
and predicting that, like, I still have the Clippers winning. I know they had a shaky start to this season.
Mm,
I mean, this postseason, but Kawhi Leonard still proved that he's one of the best players in the league. Morris showed that he can hit threes. Paul George showed that he's still efficient. Starting Reggie Jackson over Patrick Beverly, huge move
yeah.
because he's a million times better. Sucks to say for Patrick Beverly, but he is just better. So that was a huge move as well. And Nick Batum refound himself, another solid player. So I
Yeah.
still have the star power of the Clippers, Kawhi and PG beating the overall depth and perception of the Utah Jazz. And also, we have to note Mike Conley did have a little injury scare that was reported where he
Right.
was questionable for game one. So you had like an 80% Mike Conley, like a 90% Donovan Mitchell. I think it's just going to cost them. And I think the Clippers are going to upset the Jazz and take this in like 7.
Yeah, I think Clippers in 7 sounds pretty good to me. We just talked about Coach Bud and we talked about Terry Stotts getting Bud's on the hot seat. Stotts got fired for not making adjustments. You just
Yeah.
said Ty Lue plays Marcus Morris at the small ball five. He plays Reggie Jackson over Patrick Beverly. He gives Terrence Mann more minutes. He made a lot of in-series and in-game adjustments, and that's like you need that if you're going to win a championship.
Yeah. And Ty Lue has won a championship, but he got kind of like no credit for it because if you're a coach
Yeah,
that has LeBron James, you kind of get no credit. Frank Vogel, no credit. The only coach that ever got credit was Eric Spoelstra with Miami, and that's because Pat Riley kind of demanded it from the media. But even when Ty Lue got hired, we were like, oof, we don't know how good Ty Lue is. Like, great, because
yeah,
he had LeBron and he just kind of coasted with LeBron. But he showed today in this series that he is a good coach. He deserves to be a head coach, and he is a championship level head coach. And he's doing everything he can. It's just up to the players now.
Yeah, like if he had left Zubats in, which Coach Bud probably would have done, because like
Yeah,
even if Brook Lopez is getting killed on switches, Bud's leaving him in there, right?
yeah,
Uh, they lose that series because Doncic,
100%.
anytime Zubats was on him, he was scoring like every time.
Yeah, they just had it was just hard to match the pick and roll with Porzingis because Porzingis,
Yeah,
even though he doesn't shoot the greatest like percentage wise, he's still respected as a good shooter, and it was just hard. And even someone like Rajon Rondo, who was brought in to play heavy minutes, he just couldn't hit the floor three,
yeah,
and he couldn't provide any spacing. And Tyler made the executive decision. He's like, "Hey, man, you can't play into this game. Like, you only played 9 minutes this game because
yeah,
Reggie Jackson was at least shooting the three, right? He wasn't. He
yeah,
was shooting decent 3 for 8, but he was shooting the three, and it was giving much more spacing for Kawhi and PG to operate.
yeah. Should we talk Mavericks now, or do you want to talk about the rest of the second round first?
We'll finish out the second round matchup.
Okay, so other second round matchup, Lakers lost. Obviously, we got Suns and Nuggets. This is I don't know I think the Suns are going to win. I think they should win, but I've been talking myself into the Nuggets a little more and more every day. Like Jokic, MPJ
Yeah.
playing the way he is. Will Barton might be coming back. Is this a 6-7 game series too?
So we have to preface it by saying we are Nuggets fans. Obviously, we're Raptors fans first, Nuggets fans, because the Nuggets show us so much love on the podcast. And even though we're Nuggets fans, I still have the Suns in 7. I just think
Yeah.
the Will Barton not being there, Jamal Murray not being there, and PJ Josh not being there, I think it's going to be hard for anyone to guard Devin Booker. Because who would I usually put on Devin Booker? Would probably be a Jamal Murray or a Will Barton. But now you probably have to put like an Aaron Gordon on him just because Austin Rivers is too short.
Mm-hmm.
Facu Composa is way too short. Uh,
Yeah.
Monty Morris, you could put him on him, but he's not. He's still not that tall. So I'm going with probably Aaron Gordon
Yeah. You're
on
not putting
Devin
MPJ
Booker.
on him. You're not going to ask MPJ to
Yeah,
guard Devin Booker.
MPJ is just not that good of a defender. And then like it's just a tougher matchup. And because of that, I think that mismatch that's going to be caused due to the injuries, I think the Suns are going to have enough to edge it.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Ayton's an amazing player too. And Jokic is still going to school him, but he's going to do a much, much better job than Nurkic and Kanter.
Yeah.
But Jokic is still going to average like 30 points a series. It's just going to be at worse efficiency.
Yeah. The fact that I agree, I think Suns in 7 too, but the fact that this Nuggets team with the injuries that they have is going to be able to take it to 7 with the 2 seed Suns who just beat the Lakers, I think is pretty impressive. I do think it will go long. Jokic is probably going to be the best player in this series. I think
Yeah.
he's going to put up the best stats. Devin Booker, like you said, is going to have a mismatch against pretty much anyone who guards him except maybe Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon has been amazing defensively in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I just think Suns too much depth. Chris Paul, he's a veteran. It's probably going to be Campazzo guarding him. I think maybe
Yeah.
Austin Rivers. I don't know. I just think without Will Barton, even if he does come back, he's not going to be 100%. Probably it's going to be too much. But it will go long.
Yeah. And Malone is a great adjustment coach too. And I think he
Yeah.
will make adjustments because I think he probably rolls out the lineup they rolled out last time with Austin Rivers starting at the 2 guard. But I think they'll make an adjustment. And I think someone like Jermichael Green or Paul Millsap comes in
Yeah.
just because once you move Aaron Gordon to the 2, you could have MPJ guarding someone at the 3, like a Bridges, and then you could have Paul Millsap just provide so much good off-ball defense while guarding Jay Crowder. And
Yeah.
Jay Crowder is going to be another player like he has to shoot well because if he's not shooting well, having a Paul Millsap being able to rotate in and into the paint and play solid rotational defense can cause a couple of those games to swing Nuggets way.
Yeah. I will say that if Gordon can do a really good job on Booker and like he's not going to shut him down, but if he can like make him really work for his points, and if Campazzo can play pretty good defense on Chris Paul, if Jokic doesn't get into foul trouble, like it's not inconceivable that the Nuggets could win this series.
Yeah, like the player we just pointed out for the Suns was Crowder, but the player on the Nuggets, I think we both agree has to be Monty Morris.
Yeah.
If he's able to score like he did the last couple of games in the Portland series, where he's averaging 20 points or 18 points, and he's having that 6-man offensive burst, then they have it. They have a good chance, man. That's why we both have this going 7 because even though all these injuries exist, they're just a deep team, this Nuggets team, and they just built a great team like
Yeah,
around Jokic. Like all these other players just fit really well around Jokic.
yeah, and they're young. Like Jokic, he's only 26. Like this team is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Let's talk about the team that the Nuggets eliminated. Portland. They just fired Terry Stotts in what was not a surprise move whatsoever. Portland again, like there's all these Dame trade rumors. I don't think he's going to be traded, but outside of that, I think anything is on the table, and I think they need to start putting better teams around him.
Yeah, I think the trade they're going to look for is CJ. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
obviously the one that's going around now because Chris Middleton had one bad game is CJ for Chris Middleton. Uh, that works perfectly for the Trailblazers because you put Norman Powell at the shooting guard, his 6'3" self at shooting guard. You have Chris Middleton at small forward, and then you could just have a better like size for your team, and it just goes forward. Uh, Sadly, we both think Chris Middleton's gonna play much better and come back and not be traded. So we don't know what they're gonna do. They have their picks, they have players. Damian Lillard staying.
mm-hmm.
The coach is probably Chauncey Billups,
Yeah,
I would assume. So that's going to be a new hire, first time hire. It's just interesting because the Trailblazers, we don't know what's going to happen because we don't know
yeah,
who their trading partner is. We just know Dame staying, everyone else is
yeah,
available. Well, who's the trading partner, right? So nothing else we could really talk about them except it's going to be a big
yeah.
shakeup.
I think I don't really see too many trades out there for them. Like I think trading CJ, like you said, is the way to go. But I think
Yeah,
they need to get someone big in there. I think they need like a good big man. Like
like say
Sabonis's contract and stuff lines up, but I don't see that making sense for
no.
Indiana.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really see a big man or even just like a wing that they could trade for.
Well, the hope is also that with a new coach, players like Nurkic are
Mm,
more involved in the offense and
yeah,
they could bounce back and improve their trade value. We also have to note that Nurkic, he only has 1 year left on his deal. So after this next following season,
right.
he'll be up for extension. So will Robert Covington. They have to re-sign Norman Powell. So they have to do a lot
Yeah,
this offseason. It's going to be one of the busiest for the
yeah,
front office. So
yeah.
just don't expect this team to be anything similar.
Yeah, I agree, but I also don't think that this big fix is coming this year. I think like I don't see a trade partner out there right now. There's no like disgruntled like Karl Anthony Towns is not asked out or anything like that. Um, I don't know. I think maybe next offseason is the way like when these guys come off the books or whatever, then they have some cap space to work with. They can make a signing, they can trade for like another star, whatever. I don't see like a huge shakeup. I mean, the roster is gonna look different, but I don't see it like them becoming championship contenders this offseason.
And like a player we always mention, maybe you do let Norman Powell go and you go for someone who's a bigger in size, someone who's a bigger veteran, someone who can just you could throw the ball to and you're confident he could get you a mid-range jumper. The guy we're gonna mention a lot this offseason because that's the number one free agent, and that's DeMar DeRozan. This is another team that could be in
Yeah,
play for DeMar DeRozan. And it's gonna be interesting to see, man.
yeah,
DeMar DeRozan, he holds a lot of keys this offseason, and he's a very quietly spoken guy, so we know nothing about what
yeah,
he's gonna choose.
yeah. That's true. We have absolutely no idea. Like if he, like you said, he could take a pay cut, go to the Lakers, or he could go for the most money, go to the Knicks,
Money, Knicks.
whatever. Do they get like is he upgrade over CJ McCollum though? I don't really think so.
Well,
Like
he's a size upgrade to say the least,
yeah, yeah.
and he's a definitely playmaking upgrade, and he's a upgrade. He's just a different type of
It's probably
player.
a durability upgrade too, right? Like
Yeah, and CJ's this small backcourt, 6'2", 6'3".
yeah,
Just
yeah,
we've tried it. They tried it long enough. It's time to change it up,
yeah,
and the new coach hopefully makes adjustments too, because I think that was a big factor too.
yeah. It definitely is. There was a story about like opposing players, making
Laughing,
fun, laughing mid game
Dame.
that there was no adjustments coming. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so moving on to another team that got eliminated a couple days ago, the Memphis Grizzlies. It was a good playoff showing in the first round against Utah, but ultimately uh, it went as expected. John Morant rose his stock this playoffs. So did Dylan Brooks, I think. Um, is there, other than Jaren Jackson Jr. come back playing healthy, hopefully a full season, like is there an immediate change coming into this team? They still got Valanciunas on the books. They still got everyone else pretty much, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, even though they have all those players on the book, once they turn down Justin Winslow's 13 million team option, they're going to be $50 million under the tax. That means they're going to have around like 25 million in cap space, and that's pretty much enough for like a star
DeMar
level player.
DeRozan.
This DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to see a lot of these teams that are in this middle ground that have cap this year, who are going to extend their young guys next year,
Hmm.
make a real hard push for DeMar DeRozan, and he's going to get $100 million contract. It's just which $100 million contract he accepts.
Yeah.
So the Memphis Grizzlies, they're just going to keep their players together. They're going to offer a big contract for like a DeMar DeRozan. And if he doesn't accept, they're just going to sign some solid role players to surround for like 1 or 2 years, and then just re-sign their guys next year and keep it moving.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's
Internal growth.
we might see a DeMar DeRozan Valanciunas reunion. We might see a Kyle Lowry DeMar DeRozan reunion. Maybe on the Knicks. It's, as Raptor fans, it's going to be pretty cool to see. But yeah, I think they're not like this is kind of a year where they're just going to bring a veteran, bring in a star like that who's going to raise their ceiling, get them hopefully a better seed in the playoffs, get some more experience for like John Morant, for JJJ, obviously, and then when they're more developed and the real cap space comes in and the real like there's better free agents on the market, then this team is probably primed for a better you know playoff run
Yeah.
in a couple of
The
years.
reason they just want it now is because Kyle Anderson is up off Apple after this year. Jaren Jackson is up after this year. Jonas Valanciunas is up after this year. Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen, and all those guys are probably going to get re-signed for a little bit bigger contracts. So you want to really capitalize on this space right now. That's we say that about a lot of teams this year, man. So a lot of teams are going to be really pushing for that DeMar DeRozan, the Kyle Lowrys, the Chris Pauls, those veterans, and we could see maybe in like next year we talk about like, man, these players got overpaid because they're like 30,
Yeah,
31, 32, and they're getting these huge contracts. But it's a unique offseason to say the
yeah,
least.
really unique offseason, unique season because Chris Paul was one of the best players this year and he was 36. LeBron James
He's
till he got injured, he was in the MVP conversation. Like they're
yeah,
just it seems like Kyle Lowry's still good. It seems like these old players who we said were going to be washed up 3 years ago are not even close to washed up. And teams are teams are going to be betting on them with $100 million contracts.
yeah, like Chris Paul, we had him at 0% chance
Yeah.
of taking like or declining this option, and
Yeah.
he's gonna decline to get $100 million extension. So
Crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we just got one more team to talk about, and that was the team that we just saw get eliminated. Or do we have more?
We got the Lakers too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Let's do the Lakers first. Okay, so obviously LeBron and AD are staying on the roster. Schroeder turned down 85 mil or something, 80 mil for 100 mil. I don't think he's getting that after that playoff showing.
yeah.
Um, what like there's some Kyle Lowry sign and trade rumors. I don't know. DeMar DeRozan on a cheap deal. Other than that, like how much does this team need? Because I think with the healthy AD
Yeah.
and healthy LeBron, which is definitely not something you can bet on, they should be championship contenders, but they do need to fill in the gaps for sure.
So basically, everything has to be signed and traded for
Yeah.
this to happen. And sadly, I know this is going to be a shock to Lakers fans. I don't think they're going to really strike out any gold this offseason. Like, I don't think a DeMar DeRozan, I don't think the Spurs are going to be really up for the sign and trades because we know the Spurs don't like the Lakers. Uh, Kyle Lowry, I don't think the Raptors are interested in a Kyle Kuzma and a KCP.
Yeah, no thanks.
And I don't think he's just going to. And like we would do it for Kyle Kuzma, but I don't think Kyle Lowry is accepting a $13 million deal. So I think they're just going to re-sign their guys, and then they're going to be big players this trade deadline, like this next trade deadline, because they're going to have 13 million move in Kyle Kuzma, 13 million in KCP.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have Dennis Schroeder's like $20 million contract to move. They're going to have Taylor Horton-Tucker's $7 million contract to move. Like they're going to have actual pieces. Alex Caruso's like 7 million, 5 million contract to move. So they're gonna have actual pieces to move, and they're gonna be huge trade deadline players. But off season, I think it's gonna be really quiet for them.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's actually a super solid strategy. You hang on to these guys who are making 13, making 7, whatever. And then
Yeah,
when, I don't know, Chris Middleton's in the trade rumors, when if Portland doesn't trade TJ McCollum, if Bradley Beal somehow hasn't been traded yet, maybe Karl Anthony Towns asked out. You never know. there's always a guy available at some point during the season, and the Lakers seem like if they're in position to to make that kind of trade.
Yeah, and they have the 2025, 2026, and 2027 draft pick. They also have this year's 2021 draft pick. So they have a couple of assets that they can maybe flip and rotate and kind of get those pick pools, plus the Kyle Kuzma, plus Taylor Horton Tucker.
Yeah,
We can see them landing a solid, maybe not a superstar, but someone of like Kyle Lowry's
yeah.
caliber. Like if the Raptors sign Kyle Lowry for a big contract, and then both those teams kind of just wait until trade deadline to make this move happen,
Mm.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's not gonna happen in free agency though, and even if
Yeah,
they don't, like LeBron and AD healthy,
it's a great
hopefully,
team. Yeah.
is the best team in the West. So it's not like this is too urgent.
Yeah, like we're still like us and the rest of the media aren't gonna put the Lakers no lower than fourth.
No,
Like
like
so, like just relax. Injuries happen, happens every year.
yeah,
Just unlucky. Just gotta wait for next year.
yeah. Oh, I guess Drummond. We didn't really talk about Drummond. What do you think happens
I
with him?
think Drummond. I think Drummond resigns and Montrezl Harrell turns down his player
Yeah.
option and signs somewhere else because Montrezl Harrell got no playing time. He wants to
Hmm.
probably get out of there. But I think Drummond resigns because he really didn't raise his value, and I think around a $9 million deal is the
Yeah,
most he's gonna get.
yeah. And I think him at 9 is pretty good value,
It's
to
a
be
solid
honest.
value, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have one more team to talk about, the Dallas Mavericks. We just saw them get eliminated, and to me, it like Luca. You keep him. I like Jalen Brunson. I think he's a really good backup point guard. But other than that, I think you need to get some help. I think anyone is subject to be traded. Porzingis looks like a $32 million guy who
Role
can like
player.
a good game is 16 points from him. It just he went 0 for 5 from 3 today. I don't know. I just this whole roster I think really needs to be shaken up.
So the question is, you have obviously Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract is up.
Yeah.
You have Luca's extension this year. Do you do it right away or do you wait, try to sign a star? Uh, yeah, man, it's just a Hardaway's contract. That's going to be the big killer because if you sign him right away, a $20 million deal, there goes your cap space. This is your team for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, do you value Hardaway's like shooting and his explosiveness as like a microwave and like a 3 point spacer versus another playmaker, another scorer, another defender? Do you want to bring that in, right? So they have a lot of questions to answer. They do have $20 million, $21 million in cap space, but with the extension and
Yeah.
Hardaway's contract, that's basically like zero. So it's a question: do you keep Hardaway or do you risk it for the two guys that we're always going to mention, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan?
DeMar DeRozan.
Because we're pretty confident all those restricted free agents like Lonzo Ball, John Collins are going to
Yeah.
resign,
Yeah.
and we're pretty confident that Kawhi Leonard, who said he loves his home city of LA, is going to resign as well. So once those three guys are gone, it's these guys are what's left, Lowry and
Yeah.
DeRozan.
Yeah, see, to me, I'm like, you got to tear this down. Like Hardaway, even though I like him, you're gonna end up
Yeah,
overpaying for him. I'm like, you gotta turn down that. Just keep Luca, and then find a way to trade Porzingis or whatever. But like, you're right. The only free agents worth signing are Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. And like, I don't know, Tim Hardaway Jr. probably fits this team better than DeMar DeRozan. I don't know.
yeah.
Kyle Lowry's old. DeRozan and Lowry don't fit with Luca's timeline. I don't know. I think maybe you just re-sign Hardaway. Maybe you try to sign some better wing defenders with the whatever little cap space is left over, if any. And I don't. I think it's time to try to trade Porzingis. I really think his time there is should be coming to an end soon. I don't think he fits the team. I think he didn't look too healthy in the series, and even though he didn't get hurt, he didn't look explosive. He didn't look confident. He doesn't look like he can play the 4 or the 5. He isn't hitting threes anymore. I don't know. He just looks like a bad contract to me.
And they're another team that they don't have the 2021 pick. They don't have the 2023 pick. So that means they really can't trade their picks unless it's like a 2027 and then swaps.
Yeah.
So they're not going to get, like, you know how I mentioned Miles Turner and Brogdon and how the Celtics can maybe get those guys by throwing all those picks?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mavericks can't do that. So they're
Yeah.
not going to be able to get a crazy, like, a crazy amount of haul back for Porzingis and picks. Like they're the ones that are probably going to get a lesser return, which is interesting to say, which is like pretty tough for them to swallow, but
Yeah.
they're in a tough spot. This Porzingis contract really did ruin their, I don't want to
Yeah.
say ruin their core, but it really did put them in a bad spot. If they didn't trade for Porzingis, just kept the salary space, maybe they could be a Hawks type team where they just went off in a free agency, signed everyone when Luka was still in that rookie contract. So tough mistake. Tough mistake
Really, really tough. Yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr. ended up being like the most impactful player from that Knicks
from that trade.
that
Yeah,
Knicks trade, which is pretty crazy. But like I don't know, who says no for just a straight up Porzingis for Kimba? Like probably both teams, right?
I
Or probably
God,
Dallas. I don't know.
Dallas. I think Kemba Walker is just being 5'11" and that age. It just hurts him a little too much.
Yeah,
I think Kemba Walker is gonna have a lot of picks attached to him wherever he goes.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Well, we saw like that happened with Westbrook. We saw that happen with Chris Paul, and then they ended up being good where they ended up. But I don't know. Like
A
Kemba looks
Westbrook, a
like
West, a Westbrook player might also be a
yeah,
trade too. If the
yeah,
Wizards start blowing this up, Porzingis is still under. He's not even 30 years old yet. So a team that's rebuilding that has a
hmm,
big name superstar might throw him his way. I don't
that's a
know
good
if that
point.
would work, but
Yeah,
it's interesting to at least think about, right? Westbrook
yeah,
and Doncic, two triple double guys.
yeah. That would be pretty interesting, especially if Westbrook just like maybe played a little bit more off the ball and like
Yeah,
was getting passes from Luka. That would be pretty exciting to see. And like yeah, Westbrook's going to be coming up in trades, especially if Bradley Beal gets traded because he has a contract that can, um, line up with a lot of overpaid players, a lot of superstars, whatever. But
yeah.
I don't know. He might. Yeah, I think I like the Luka Westbrook fit more than the Luka Porzingis fit personally.
I think I'll take the Luka Porzingis fit.
Really?
I'm not a big fan of having a non-shooter next to Luka. That's why I don't even know if I would even go for DeMar DeRozan. I think I'll just
Yeah.
stick with Tim Hardaway Jr. I think hopefully you just hope someone takes a pay cut. Maybe you get maybe you bet on Victor Oladipo. People are expecting him to miss the next 2 seasons. Maybe you bet on him, sign him for like a 3-year deal, and then
Hmm.
by the time this end of the season comes around, he's playing like a all-star again at just a mid-level exception,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So maybe you just take an exception on Victor Oladipo. Uh, maybe you could make a trade work with uh, the Pelicans because
Yeah.
you want a shooter in Porzingis. Like he's a guy that might fit next to Zion. Yeah, give us
Yeah.
Steven Adams and we'll take Lonzo Ball too. Like
That
you
would be
never know. You never
perfect
know.
that for Dallas. But that front line defense with Porzingis and Zion is a little
But the
questionable
offense
to
would be
say the
crazy
least. The
though.
offense
The
would be
offense would
would
be
be
crazy.
crazy. I mean, Porzingis was terrible offensively this series, but maybe he just wasn't 100%. I don't know. Is he ever going to be
Yeah.
100% for his whole career? I don't know. But yeah, the
In
options are
in
definitely limited.
in theory, it's at least amazing.
Yeah, in theory. I think we covered everything for this pod. Next week when we come back, it's going to be like pretty interesting. We
Second
might
round.
have a couple of sweeps. I don't know. Like the Hawks, like could they upset this series? I'm not saying they're going to sweep, but it's going to be an interesting pod to say the least next week. Thank you everyone for listening to this one. Like I said, we'll be back next Sunday to talk more basketball. In the meantime, follow us on Instagram at Stars Floor Podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe STF Clips for the best clips from this podcast. But most importantly, subscribe to the podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating, leave a review because it all really helps. Other than that, we will see you guys next week. And thank you for listening.